Hello viewers, today I would like to talk about the subject of Nazism and Aryanism. Now, I had said I was going to make a video about this that was more, I suppose, what you may call detailed. Before I talked about Shiloh Hendrix. Now, I'm talking about the related subject of Nazism, which is based in Aryanism. Many of you may not know what that is. But in order to understand it, we are going to have to understand some things about ancient Persia as well as ancient India. Now, before, I had some doubts about doing this video this early, and to be entirely honest, I was not necessarily intending even to do it, because I thought I had revealed enough in the comment section of my Shiloh Hendrix video for everyone to search and research. But I did have, some time ago, an enthusiastic viewer who I happened to engage in the comment section. That person also sent me a few emails, was very cordial, and that was quite interesting. Let me be frank. I have, over the last few weeks, been somewhat, how should you say, stressed, based on world events, things I have to deal with regarding my family and everything else, and so I was not necessarily keen on making this video. Honestly. But I feel somewhat obligated to my viewers, especially those who want to learn. When people want to learn, that excites me to a certain extent. That gives me a degree of energy. This subject, doubtless, has been talked about many times. From this angle, peradventure not. I do know that I have a very diverse set of subscribers, even though there's 161. Some people would say that's not so many, but nonetheless, the amount of subscribers I have and the different types of subscribers I have and viewers are such that I'm talking to religious-minded people, people interested in symbolism, people interested in video games, all types of people, all types of different, views, religions, what have they. All those people watching this channel. This video sort of went away to a certain degree from the more manga and video game focused subjects, which were my intention, although if people are willing to learn about something else, I really don't mind doing other videos. It's just that at this moment I have to say, let me be entirely soothful. Sooth means truth. I like to use that word. The world, in my view, is becoming increasingly stressful, and so there are certain things about race, religion, culture, history, where I know so much about them, this stuff is easy stuff for me to understand. Basically, I'm at the point now where I say I don't really have to worry about anything because all of my faith is in the Most High God. I don't have to worry about anything. My high priest, Jesus Christ, is leading me from a religious perspective. To me, it's like that story of Jesus Christ. He was on the ship, and he's in the storm, and everyone else is very panicked, and he is calm in the storm. Many people, especially people with the black social status, which I happen to be a part of, the social status, of this country, of this world, that is in a certain position in society which is not necessarily favorable. Many people of this social status, for whatever reason, all manner of reasons, we have a wealth of reasons to be stressed and very I'm paranoid about a great deal of things. But at this point, I can say I'm very comfortable spiritually. And I've sort of come to the conclusions by reading the Gospels that any true Christian, for one thing, every true Christian is a Niger, as the Bible translations sort of depict. In other words, when you find the word Christian in the Bible, in the New Testament, the first word you will come up with is Niger, meaning black. This was how apostles and prophets were described when you read the book of Acts. I've talked about that before. I may talk about this today, or peradventure not. I have a great deal to talk about. In other words, if you are a true Christian, you are not afraid or have any trepidation about being at the lowest social status. For one thing, Jesus Christ has told you, you cannot pick up the sword, fight, and have your way in the world. You cannot, he says, those that take up the sword will perish with the sword. So as a Christian, you have no reason to take up the sword and fight. You are at the very lowest social status if you cannot take up a weapon and fight. I want some of you to reflect upon that. So, realizing that you're just in the hands of the Lord, the only thing you have is faith. Essentially, there's no reason to be patriotic because you already have your own nation, which is the kingdom of God, Israel. It's very simple. Frankly, when we're talking about these things, we can draw parallels to the old philosophers of Greece. There was a reason those people were being persecuted and slain. And you can find people like this in nearly every country. And yes, not all of them are considered, by historical standard, Christian. But the Lord knoweth all things, and he knoweth the hearts of all men. And the Apostle Paul talked of the unknown God. The God that you so ignorantly worship is the true and living God. There are many people like that. Many Christians have to, if they want to progress as Christians, as followers of Jesus Christ, you have to realize the only way you can be even remotely like him is if you realize that essentially your religion is peace-like, it's pacifistic. Basically, pacifism cometh from the word pax. As far as I know, it meaneth peace. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, they say the Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, his name will be called God with us. Jesus Christ, those are references to Jesus. They say he's going to be born of a virgin, all of these things. What type of prince is he going to be? He's going to be a Prince of Peace. Some people do not realize that this is what is being said. Now, some people were referenced. He took a whip. He drove some money changers and Pharisees out of the temple. But did he commit war upon them? Did he ever justify any type of slaying of men, any type of murder, war, or chaos? No, he saith, those that take up the sword shall perish with the sword. He didn't say anything about taking up a whip and driving money changers from the temple. He said, this is my Father's house, and he did it. But Jesus was not a warrior. Now, what will happen? The Lord saith, he saith, there will be vengeance for the elect. That time hath not come. All those meek people, the Bible saith, the meek shall inherit the kingdom of God. No one wants to be meek, right? Most people in the world want to be prideful. They want to take up the sword, get what they want, and do what they want. They don't want anyone to tell them what they cannot have or what they cannot do. They will take up the sword. If someone saith, this is mine, they will take up the sword. They will do the worldly thing. They will take it by force. Jesus saith, those that take up the sword will perish with the sword. You have nothing to gain in this world but the physical, the carnal, things that will not last when you take your last breath. Your spirit will last, but where doth the spirit come from? Read in the wisdom of Solomon, it saith, the indomitable spirit of the Lord is in all things. What giveth purpose is the Spirit of the Lord. Once you've forgotten the Spirit, you've forgotten all things. Soothly, we can go back to the philosophers, and some people may not know what the wisdom of Solomon is. The wisdom of Solomon is in our Apocrypha, which was once in our King James Bible. Some of you will say, well, the Apocrypha is not to be read, that's bad, or something of that sort. Because the original, the Jewish people who were consulted by the Nicene Council essentially said that we as Jews do not read this book, which is not surprising. They had their own canon called the Tanakh, and they were also, to some extent, used to develop a sort of standard Bible biblical canon. You have to understand this was created, as far as I know, during the time of Constantine. When they wanted to nationalize and create Christianity as a sort of state religion. There is a danger in the state telling you which books are legitimate and which books are not legitimate. There is a danger in that. At no point in time were Christians in that situation until the Roman government decided to exert control. So for me, I read the Apocrypha. That is in all Catholic Bibles. It is in the King James Bible 1611 version. Now, we can basically take this as a fact that Jesus promoted peace. He said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Not the warmongers, not the bigots who say, I have to represent my own people to get my own way in my own land, in my own nation. If your nation is heaven, the highest of all nations, why would you need a nation on this world? Why do you care about taking up the sword and defending things by tooth and nail, fang and claw, like an animal, like a beast defending its territory? There's no peace in that. The Lord of peace, Jesus Christ, cometh to provide peace. We had the old Israel. The old Israel fell. The old Israel is no more. You have the ancient tale of Esther, Ishtar, her name is, and Mordecai, Marduk, both names coming from Babylonian gods. Many early Christians were very, skeptical of that whole particular book even being placed in the Bible, but nonetheless, it hath been kept because Jews were consulted for the formation of the canon, and whatever books they considered to be legitimate were given credence. And so we have our Nicene canon. We have those books which are considered unprofitable or apocrypha, but some of them are extremely substantial. So we're not taking the way of Esther, of Ishtar. Ishtar is the goddess of war and sexuality in Babylon. If that woman had very much relevance according to, in regard to us Christians, why would she represent herself with that name? After they had been freed from the Babylonians, why would you keep a Babylonian name? Oh, I'm Esther, I'm Ishtar. Oh, I'm Marduk, I'm Marduk, I'm Mordecai. Those names are just stylized Babylonian names. Her real name is Ishtar. Back then, you did not have the, stylization. You did not have any of the later adaptations. Those people were Jews who lived in Babylon, and so, quite obviously, if they kept Babylonian names, they obviously felt that something in Babylonian culture really resonated with them. And when you consider that Ishtar is a name of one of the most famous god in the Babylonian Sumerian pantheon, you have to realize that that person, whoever Esther was, she really had pride in being Ishtar, and she acted like it. She was a woman of war and sexuality, just like the book saith. Vashti said, I don't want to engage with this king who is drunk and drinks, and who is basically a person who is licentious. She had no respect for it. Vashti is considered to be a bad actor in the book of Esther. But obviously you can see her dignity. So you have to, as an individual, come to your own conclusions. You cannot if you want to be a person who listens to what everyone says, and you do not want to think for yourself, this channel is not for you. You can listen, but you may not like what you hear. I receive many recommendations to watch and listen to different people, but listen when I say this channel, for the most part, when I do research, I take my ideology out of it. I look at things that other people do not look at. So we're going to talk about the subject of Nazism and Aryanism. This is going to be connected also to many of the recent happenings that we see amongst many bigoted people like Shiloh Hendricks and other individuals. Just like Jesus Christ, my purpose in making these videos is not to make you stressed. It's to bring you peace. Now, it is true Jesus said he came with the sword, and essentially that is meaning truth is like a sword that divides. So if you care about the truth, if you're willing to accept the truth, you will have peace. If you are not willing to accept the truth, and you want to say, how dare you say these certain things? But I just want you to ask this question. Is what I'm saying sooth? Which means truth. I love using the word sooth. I love many of these older English words. But anyhow, if you see sooth in it, if you understand that what I'm saying is true, then you will not be offended. If you are offended, I have nothing to do with that. Some people, I cover a lot on this channel. I say a lot of things. I'm very honest. This is an amateur channel. I do not filter myself. Occasionally, if I say certain things that may be somewhat irritating to, people in general, sometimes I will take videos down, but oftentimes not, and that is something I'm improving on. Essentially not taking videos down when I say something that people may not like, because I am basically learning. The subscribers, if you're watching this, you came here to watch, you came here to listen. If you don't want to see it or anything of that sort, you can just go. That's fine. But anyhow, when I talk about Nazism, I am talking about the spiritual aspects of it, the symbolic aspects of it. We are not going to go into these matters of German politics. We are going to go right to the root. We want to know what the root is. It could be very interesting. Now, some of you have doubtlessly already seen many of the comments that I've made regarding it. However, for the benefit of the fine viewer who happened to come by and make a comment that was somewhat related to what I said having to do with this video, that is the reason I'm making this video. To be honest, I'm making it for one person, because at the time I was thinking, I don't even feel like doing it. I've already posted comments in the comment section, but if people are willing to learn, that is enough for me. And as far as I know, whoever this woman is or whoever this person is, they want to learn, alright, I'll make a video. It's as simple as that. In sooth. So, before I go into too much of a tangent, I think it's time to get started with this. Now, you may wonder, what, we're going to the comments? Yes, we're going to the comments because I write my information in the comments. So, for some of you, if you read the comments, you already know what this video is going to be about. But if you want to hear it said, as in me speaking, alright. So we're going to start really simply with a few words. Firstly, the swastika. Souffle. The swastika is essentially, because I know this all by heart, the swastika is a sun symbol. If you see it, it's a sun symbol. You may have heard it's for good luck, it's a Buddhist symbol and whatnot. It is a sun symbol in regard to the Buddhist tradition. It is a sun symbol in regard to the Norse tradition. It is a sun symbol in regard to the theosophical traditions, in other words, a theosophical syncretism. It is a sun symbol. That is what it is. Souffle. It representeth the sun. It is very simple for you to understand. Now, let me be frank about this, because I could go through quote after quote after quote after quote and just read things out to you, but I think that would be very boring for you, would it not? So, let me be frank. The Nazi Germans had come to a conception that they were related to the Aryans. Believe it or not, this was the same idea that Albert Pike, who was a Mason of the Scottish Rite, happened to come to. He was a member of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. For those of you who may have heard, it is a very, most of you I'm sure know what the Ku Klux Klan is. Essentially, it was a racist group after the Civil War. They sought to sort of fight against the efforts of Reconstruction that the Union was doing and essentially keep a sort of white societal dominance in the southern region. So General Albert Pike was of a magical order. We know what it is. The Masons. This man was of the Scottish Rite, a particular fraternity of brothers who practice magic, who practice occultism, who practice speculative masonry, so to speak. Very, very long history. Some say that their orders related to the Templars, and before them even the Saracens and Egypt and the like, but essentially they are a group of people who practice magic. So it is no surprise that in the Ku Klux Klan, people wear hoods, people call themselves names like the Grand Dragon and other names of that sort. Should I search? Yes, I should search. Okay. I don't have any incriminating search results of anything I may have been doing, which I do like that I have this feature set up, because no one needs to know what I search for. I search for a lot of things. And you can think of that what you will. I am not a person who feels the need to be ashamed of who I am and myself. If I say something somewhat racy or spicy, so to speak, I'm not going to sit here and feel ashamed, because sin is the transgression of the law. I don't feel any guilt about it. So honestly, it's good I don't have any search things that you can see where, hey, it's some website that may be somewhat risque. So that is for the benefit of the viewers. They dress in wizards' robes, people. They dress in wizards' robes. They're magicians. They burn crosses. Listen, let me be entirely frank. These people are not Christian. They've never been Christian. You may hear stories of them going to church, but no, they are not Christian. They have been constructed by fraternal organizations of wizards. No one goeth about calling himself a wizard and wearing wizard's robes and hoods and calling themselves dragons. Wizardry, witchcraft, and dragons all have negative connotations within the Christian religion. Not magic and magi. Oh, does that not surprise you? Oh, you may be surprised by this fact, but yes, the Magi came and met Jesus. Magi simply meant wise man, and so from that terminology, you have the term. How should it be said? You have the term magic. So magic is not necessarily the thing talked about in our Bibles. Witchcraft is, which meaneth weird craft, which, comma is related to the word weird. And basically in the Bible, witchcraft is essentially, arts and crafts and practices that are essentially considered weird and not in accord with the ways of God. Essentially sinful ways. But a magic, wizard, these are words that we don't find in our scriptures for those of the Christians listening. Now, obviously these people are wizards. They're wizards. They dress up as ghosts. These robes are in royal purple, the like. These are wizards. This is the true religion of the white supremacists. It can never be Christianity because essentially, and this man who went undercover for the KKK, I don't know if he did. I think there was a man of the black social status who made friends with them. I don't see the purpose of making friends with anyone who is from the KKK or was former KKK. I don't. This is just me. This is who I am. I'm a frank person. I'm a person who's frank about things. I don't need to make friends with any of these former people. You know what that was when you were part of it. I don't need to be friendly with you. I don't need to, I love my enemies. I love my enemies for who they are, being enemies. I am forged in fire, made a better man. I'm made a better man because of my enemies. It's a good thing there's people like this around, as far as I'm concerned. This is how the Lord, Most High God, tests us, who are true Nigers, true Christians. All right? You have to have enemies. If you don't have enemies, I wonder how much of a Christian you are. I really do. True Christians have enemies. This is me saying this, and this can be recorded. This can be understood from the Gospels. So, let's get into detail. So let's read this. General Albert Pike, who stood high in the Masonic order, was the chief judicial officer in the Klan. Now, there are many Freemasons who may say, "Oh Lord, I said the name. I said the whole word. Oh, YouTube may not like that, but what can I do? YouTube, if you're listening, never mind. I cannot skew the personality of the AI systems. Hopefully, I shall be treated fairly. But anyhow, viewers, essentially, you will hear many fraternal brothers say that Albert Pike was not a member of the Klan. He was. This has been recorded. This was recorded in a whole book about the Ku Klux Klan. Alright? A historical book about the Ku Klux Klan. Page 27, reprinted from, it's made in New York City. Okay, those people up there in the Union, they were recording this knowledge. They had it so that they could call names. They say, we went to war with these people, probably, and they just decide to have all of that stuff on record. They do. No one can tell us honestly Albert Pike was not a member of the Klan. We go here. You can find this book if you want to buy it. I personally do not buy it. I get this book if I want to read it. Okay. You can probably find this book on Anna's Archive or something like this. I suppose I might as well go through the trouble of doing it. Anyhow, this is the Ku Klux Klan's origin, growth, and so forth. Okay? Reprint of the 1905 edition. So, it's very simple. You can find this whole book. Now, here on Archive, they want you to purchase it. Now, if you're like me, you want to save money. You do not care about helping anyone. You just say, I'm a poor person, I don't have much money, and I want things. I want to read things. I want information. So you go right here to Anna's Archive. If you feel so willing, please donate to her. She's doing the Lord's work by giving free books out. By setting up this website. You can find this right here on Anna's Archive. Do you understand? Anna's Archive. One of probably the best website on the internet. People are sharing. Yes, you can find the original blue copy. You can find different copies, but you have it all here. You can get it. All right, now that I'm done with that, let me get right back to the subject matter. Albert Pike wrote, the Veda is certainly the second oldest book in the world, and it containeth the religious hymns of our ancestors. Yes, Albert Pike. Let me show you who Albert Pike was, just in case you think this is some Indian man talking about how his ancestors has religious hymns in the Vedas. Well, who is this man? Is he a man of the white social status? Is he a European man? One of the European pale folk of the white social status? Yes, he is. But he is saying his ancestors wrote hymns in the Vedas. You say this is a man of the white social status. Your ancestors come from Europe. Your ancestors don't come from India. You would say, well, they believe that they are Aryans. Where did Aryans come from, viewers? Let me explain something. This is a subject many of you may not know about. Aryans come from, how should it be said, Old Persia. These old Persians, these people from ancient Persia, traveled to India. They met a bunch of dark-skinned people there. Do you think they got along with them? No, they slew them and killed them in battle and warfare and took their land and enslaved them and put them on the very lowest caste of their caste system. The British did not come and revive that was already alive and well in India, and it still goeth on today. Alright? It does. So that is what happened. And Buddha is sort of the odd man out, because if you look at the hair of Buddha, he does not look like he is a traditional Asian. Buddha is a very unique figure. Many people are somewhat even, some of these people are even confused about his time period in history. You can see his hair is curly. His hair is curly. Buddha's hair is curly. Now, if you look at the old statues, his lips are very thick, his nose is very broad, this hair is curly. Let's look at a few Bantu knots. The history of dark people in India is well known. Absolutely. The people who have hair that can curl like this, they're what you may call Africans. They're what you may call Negroes. Alright, I am a Negro. People who are called black people with the hair and the skin. Buddha, his hair does not look like an Asian person's hair. Hair that curls that much is not usual amongst Asians unless you were talking about indigenous people like the Ada tribe of the Philippines, or the Manik tribe of Thailand. So here you go. These people in Thailand they are in the Philippines. They are persecuted by the tawny, lighter-skinned Filipino military and government. They are the indigenous people of the Philippines, the aboriginal people of the Philippines, with the Manik tribe. This is going all the way to Thailand. These are just two tribes. You can see a Buddhist priest there. People in Buddhist robes there. They know these people. They've been there before anyone else. You can see their skin. You can see their hair. These people exist in Asia. So I've showed you two. I can show you more, but that is enough for you to gain an understanding of these dark people that the Aryans conquered. Now let's continue. The Veda is certainly the second oldest book in the world, and it contains the religious hymns of our ancestors, for we, of whatever mixture of European blood, are wholly of the Aryan race. Germans, Gauls, Franks, Latins, Saxons, Celts, Slavs, all of one blood and family, and the English and all other European languages, and the Sanskrit and Zend and Persian are but varieties of one and the same original language, produced by intermixtures with various others. We are by nature Aryan, Indo-European, not Semitic. Oh, those biblical people of Shem, nay, we be not them. We be Aryan. There is no mixture of Semitic in the European languages. The indigenous peoples whom the Aryans conquered and with whom they mixed were of a race or races totally different from the Semites. We already know they're talking about Hebrews, right? Our spiritual kith and kin are to be found in India, Persia, Slavonia, Greece, Italy, and Germany, not Mesopotamia, Egypt, or Palestine. This is from Indo-Aryan deities and worship, as contained in the Rig Veda by Albert Pike, 1872. Alright? So, you can find that book too. I'm not going to go through every book and tell you where to go. You can find these comments on my Shiloh Hendrix video. You can find all of them. I may try to paste them on this video. Sometimes YouTube is weird about comments, and sometimes you post a comment one time, it's not censored, another time it's been removed. Alright? But anyhow, viewers, I have to say, basically, we have a great deal to talk about in regard to this. Hopefully not too long, though. But with this, you can see that they think they come from Aryans. Now, you may ask, what is Semitic? Someone who is Semitic belongs to the group of people originally from the Middle East, including, Jewish people, rather Hebrews and Arabs. They say Jew. Judah is but one tribe amongst Hebrews. So this definition is somewhat skewed, relating to the language or culture of Semitic people. All right, Albert Pike is saying Europeans have no mixture with these people. They have a sort of contemptuousness towards Christianity and Judaism. Understand that. Now we will go here and we will look at one particular scene that you have already seen before, the burning of the cross. You have to understand that Albert Pike was part of the Ku Klux Klan, and there was a concerted effort to create a type of magical religion, which is what the KKK is. It is a type of cult. The Ku Klux Klan itself comes from Greek words. What the Greek mean of exactly, I do not necessarily know, but essentially, burning the cross. When they have no respect for the cross, they have no respect for Christianity. They are not concerned with this. This is an occult group. The exoteric idea is that you're a Christian, you go to church, God favoreth the white man, God is a white man. All of these ideas are the exoteric ideas. In other words, these are the ideas out in the open. But once you become knowledgeable that Christianity is a religion that is not for the white supremacists, you decide, I want to become a Hindu or a Buddhist, or I want to engage in those religions, New Age. Maybe a person wants to join one of the occult fraternities, the magical fraternities, those. So that is what many people do, because they realize that this is not about Christianity. It's not about Christianity when you're burning the cross. You're not Christian. It's just obvious. This is why I said many times they're not Christian. Some people of the white social status who may agree with these people have a problem with that, but they are not Christian. They dress in wizards' robes. They burn crosses. They are not Christian. All right? Very simple to understand. We're done with that. Let's continue. Aryan. Some of you may be confused about this terminology. As I told you, this goeth all the way back to India. Goeth all the way back to Persia. That is what it has to do with. This is very simple, all right? Let us go to some relevant information and read this idea. From the Oxford Word Encyclopedia, a member of the peoples not to be regarded as a race, speaking any of the languages of the Indo-European, especially Indo-Iranian family. The idea current in the 19th century of an Aryan race corresponding to a definite Aryan language was taken up by nationalistic, historical and romantic writers. It was given a special currency by M.A. de Grabonneau, or however you pronounce that French name, who linked it with the theory of essential and fear. Excuse me, I'm stuttering. I'm speaking too fast. Let me take a breath. Okay. Of certain races. The term Aryan was later revived and used for the purposes of political propaganda in Nazi Germany. So Nazism is Aryanism. Frankly. So, as I said, the idea of the swastika as a sun symbol, they thought the sun represented life. The German bigots thought that if you are a race that is superior, you have emphasis upon sun worship. This is also why, the Japanese Shinto was changed to emphasize the sun goddess Amaterasu in detriment to all of the other gods and goddesses in their pantheon. So they also decided to essentially synchronize their religion with the sort of Nazi idea of the Volk that are blessed by the sun god, in this case the sun goddess. So the idea is that a superior race has to have a positive attitude toward the sun, and sun worship became the pagan ritual amongst the Volkish groups. In other words, the Volk, folk, okay, nation, Volk, type of people, you know, the German people is the German Volk. And so this is the idea. This is why they did not want other ethnicities and races. And it was not just simply Ashkenazi Jewish people. It was also Romani, people of the black social status in Germany, many different people. The genocides that were committed in Germany were not solely aimed, and certainly did not solely target those who were Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and all of these different Jewish groups. There were Romani people, and you may say, what's a Romani? A person from Egypt, a gypsy, so to speak. That's a slur. I use the term Romani. If you are talking about anyone who may be called gypsy, for any Romani listening, please forgive me that I've said that, but many people, sadly, are very ignorant of the term that is used for your people. They do not understand that Romani is the appropriate term. Romani. I urge all of you not to use the G word, gypsy, Egypt. The idea was that the Romani came from Egypt. Now people are saying they came from India. There were people who took their DNA and said they came from India. Anytime you have a poor group of people, anytime you have a group of people who are essentially considered to be less than the dominant people in society, and you have people taking DNA and telling you where you come from, you have to be careful about that. You have to maintain your identity. Some people would like to tell us all people of the black social status in the United States come from Africa. I'm not saying there aren't people who come from Africa. There's also a good deal of history having to do with dark-skinned American Indians that were even dark brown. I've done a whole video about that. We're not all just Africans. I'm not saying that not everyone came from Africa at some point, but if that's the case, then I'm just as African as anyone else. And in that case, if we're just using that standard, everyone is African. You have to sort of, if you want to sort of keep a certain degree of dignity, you have to speak up for yourself. And so, I know my history. Frankly, I can bring up all manner of citations in regard to those subjects. But anyhow, the divine essence or, life force, they believe, is in the sun. The sun is sort of this reservoir of energy, of life-giving energy, and they're saying, well, if you're a true German, you worship, you have a religion based upon the sun. Their idea of essentially synchronizing Catholicism with their occultism is just simply to say Jesus is just a representation of the sun. All right? Now, the swastika was the key symbol of groups like the Golden Dawn. As well as Madame Blavatsky, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who she had her magical group, the Theosophical Society, which eventually would be renamed as New Age, the New Age group. Essentially, they're still a Theosophical Society, but New Age was used as a word to promote these ideas, a mixture of different religions and magic systems and the like. So, Aleister Crowley wrote about it. Essentially, he said that the Nazis stole the swastika from him. So, Aleister Crowley was a really prideful man. Helena Petrovna was a Russian spiritualist born in Ukraine, so she was a Ukrainian. Many people do not understand this about the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is a famous spot for Nazism. Many Ukrainians today have Nazi beliefs. They have Nazi occult beliefs. They're really proud about it. Let me be honest. I cannot lie about that. Even Putin was right about that. He was right about it. There's plenty of Nazism in Ukraine. It's essentially a very important part of their culture. Ukraine is one of the most pro-Nazi countries in the whole world. That's where Helena Petrovna Blavatsky was born. This history of magic is very popular there. not necessarily magic, but you may say witchcraft or what have thee. And I try not to use the word magic because magic cometh from the word magi, the Persian magi that visited Jesus, and they were wise. It is true, they were wise men. Magi really were wise men because they met Jesus. So I can't really call it all magic. Because if that's the case, many of us Christians are magical too, because many of us, we accept the wisdom of God. If that is what it means to be a wise man, then many of us are magi. But anyhow, I would have to say that essentially what may be called paganism, what have thee, is very popular in Ukraine, and Nazism and Aryanism, the idea that all people of the white social status, European pale folk, Ukrainian pale folk, Slavic pale folk, come from, the Aryans, is very popular in Ukraine. Let's be frank. Let's be honest about it, alright? So you can find the swastika in many different religions, ideologies. Jainism, the Brotherhood of the Mystic Cross, it always has to do with the sun. It's a sun symbol. Many religions are sun-focused. Many religions are solar-focused. This is a very obvious thing. So, we have an esoteric philosophy. The most mystic and ancient diagram is the originator of the fire by friction. That's the idea. Its symbol was stamped on Buddha's heart. Alright, you can find it in Buddhism, you can find it in Hinduism. The statues, at least in regard to Buddha's whole history, it's a very weird history because his features do not look like the common Aryan. Frankly, even his skin is in doubt just due to how many statues are just dark and black. And his lips and his nose and his hair, and we could go on. Anyhow, basically, you can find in China, Tibet, Siam. You can find all over the world. It's a symbol of esoteric Buddhism, the secret Vajrayana, Tantrayana Buddhism, the special Pythagorean Tetrakitis, or whatever, of which is indeed the double symbol. So it's a very big symbol. This is from the Theosophical Glossary by H.P. Blavatsky, author of Isis Unveiled, The Secret Doctrine, and all manner books. That she wrote a lot of these books in India, frankly. That's from the Oxford World Encyclopedia. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky is a very popular person. I have to take a breath before I run out of breath. That breath is particularly good for my lungs. Anyhow, and you would know about it if you know about the 6 healing sounds, a Chinese healing modality. Anyhow, let me see. Is there anything else that we have to talk about? Actually, let me see. Let's get to India. Let's talk about Indians. As I said, the Aryans came from Old Persia. They came from Old Persia into what we now know as India. Their holy books, so to speak, the Vedas and Upanishads, are full of wars and fights that they've had with darker-skinned people called the Dasyus, who they conquered eventually after many wars and fights. And as I said, they enslaved those people. They still treat those people horribly today. They're the lowest social status in India. Anyhow, you can find the whole symbolism of the cow. To increase your number of cows as an Aryan. This is where the idea of the sacred cow cometh from. But anyhow, let's get to some of the more important aspects. Varna. Varna is the caste system of India. It literally means colors. So you have at least 4 social groups. The Sudra is at the bottom. The Sudra is the Dasyu. The Sudra is the dark-skinned people that were conquered by the lighter-skinned Aryans. So you have the term Dasa or Dasyu, properly the designation of the dark aborigines of India, contrasted with the fair Aryan, the pale-skinned, because they use that word fair in a very derogatory way to denote that pale people are beautiful, but there can also be a fair dark-skinned person, because fair meaneth beautiful. So we can use that terminology in regard to those of us who are brown and too. even if some people of the white social status may say we're using the word wrong, all we need to do is go to a dictionary and we can use that word how we like. Alright, Aryan conquerors, the pale Aryan conquerors is frequently, or even tawny, because these people, as far as I know, a lot of the old Persians were essentially tan. They will not get sunburned easily. Okay, so and they could have even been darker than that, who knoweth. But anyhow, they were lighter than the people they were conquering. That is the important part for us to understand. Aryan conquerors is frequently used in the sense of demons and fiends. So did you catch that? Let me be frank. In Hinduism, in Brahmin theology, the idea is that the Dasyus, the people, the dark-skinned people, the Dravidian people, all those darker-skinned aboriginal type Indians, are descended from asuras, devils. Their word for devil is asura. Their idea is these dark-skinned people came from demons. That's the Hindu idea. That's still the Hindu idea today. Some people want to say different symbols, different ideas have been appropriated and taken and twisted. No, we can read this in the Code of Manu, where they say, the Dasyu, he either came from non-existence or the demons themselves. So the idea is that the demons had completely black skin and were evil. Even the goddess Kali, although she is not an Asura, is considered to be a particularly negative deity of death, and her skin is completely black. In some statues, sometimes her skin is blue, sometimes it is black. The black one is more stunning and striking. That's also where the word Thuggee comes from, the Kali cult of the goddess of death, where you had assassins who would kill many people and say they did it in the name of the goddess of death, or they're serving her. And so the word thug is a curse upon the people of the black social status. I personally do not use the word because there are just as many, there's criminality amongst, European pale folk of the white social status who are American as well. But how many of them are called thugs? They're called mobsters and gangsters and, successful people. But anyhow, to me, I see the word as a curse. It's like the spirit of Kali, the goddess of death, is upon it. That's just my own speculation. Do not mind me and my superstitious mind. Anyhow, let's see. The invaders, though split up into many tribes, were conscious of a unity of race and religion. And remember, this came from the Sanskrit epics, where you can find all of the major Hindu epics and books that you need to find. That's the Delphi Poets series, first published in the United Kingdom. It's very interesting. Okay, the invaders, those split up into many tribes, they were conscious of a unity of race. They stylized themselves Aryas, or kinsmen. They're kinsmen because they have the same skin color, as opposed to the Aborigines, to whom they gave the name Dasyu or Dasa, fiends, and later times also called Anarya or non-Aryans. There's a lawnmower going at this time, unfortunately. If you hear a lawnmower in the background, that is because someone is cutting grass, and I did not know that they would do it. So at this point, you probably going to hear a lot of noise pollution. Hopefully this person does not cut for very long, because I thought they were going to go somewhere else and do something else, but I guess they just decided they're just going to cut. It's very annoying. It is very annoying. But anyhow, let me continue. So they called the Dasyu fiends, and later times also called the non-Aryans. The characteristic physical difference between the two races was that the color varna of the Aborigines being described as black Krishna or black skins, and as the Dasa color, in other words the color of slaves, in contrast to the Aryan color, or our color, right? That noise in the background is very annoying. This person, he rather gets on my nerves because of what he's doing now. Not that I have any animus or spite towards him. Anyhow, this contrast undoubtedly formed the original basis of caste. Yes, color caste. That's Dasyu, being at the bottom Shudra. Okay, just wait till that lawnmower goes Oh my goodness, so annoying. The regular name for which in Sanskrit is color. Okay, those of the conquered race who did not escape to the hills and were captured became slaves. Thus one singer receives from his royal patron 100 asses, 100 sheep, and 100 dasas. The latter word in Sanskrit regularly means servant or slave. Excuse me. Much in the same way as the captive Slav, in other words, up there in Russia, in Ukraine, and all of those places, some of those people, they also had their own slaves that were of their people of the white social status, peasants and serfs and the like, to, you know, tend to the land and all of that. But this is a bit different. This is a whole racial thing. To the German came to mean slave. When thoroughly subjected, the original inhabitants, ceasing to be called Dasyus, became the fourth caste under the name. Okay, I have to wait until this lawnmower. Why is this person even doing this today? Of all days, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you came here to give us back the lawnmower, now you're cutting, and you're just being very annoying. Anyhow, under the name Sudras. And it's not as though I don't cut the grass when I can. He has, you know, he cuts other people's lawns and other things like this. He's not really helping at this point. He's not really helping. He thinks he's helping. Maybe he wants to get a few dollars out of it. I have no idea. But personally, it's very annoying. Anyhow, the Dasyus appear to have been a pastoral race, for they possessed large herds which were captured by the victorious Aryans. They fortified themselves in strongholds called Pur, which must have been numerous, as Indra sometimes said to have destroyed as many as 100 of them for his allies. This is total genocide in India. Now you understand. That is where this idea of Aryan, Dasyu, German, all of these things connect. You can go all the way back to the Ku Klux Klan to know that some of these people of the white social status considered themselves to be related to these people. So this is a long history, people. You have to go back to ancient history to understand it. That's where you have to go. Alright? Now let's see. You have a lot of different organizations I could talk about. I could talk about, let me see, what else could I talk about? There was a subject I wanted to talk about. I could talk about Mein Kampf, I could talk about a lot of those things, but this may be my first video. I may do another video. The noise that was happening just a few minutes ago, or just, you know, about a minute ago, was kind of annoying as I'm doing this video. Anyhow, let me see, because I think it stopped now. I'm alright. Let me see, what was I going to show you this time? Let me see, not this. This is having to do with some of the things I talked about before. I wanted to show you about the significance of the blonde hair. That's a big thing in Nazism, Nazi culture. A lot of this I can just talk about offhand. I really do not need to go to citations over much. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So about the German Volk and, you know, some of their ideas about who they are. Basically, you already know they take their Aryan heritage seriously, but also, for those of you who may not know about how or why Adolf Hitler and many of these Nazis had considered blonde hair and blue eyes to be superior to any features of the people of the white social statuses because of this. Why do they value those features, you might ask? Golden hair is related to the sun's rays and the whole vast sun symbolism. This is their idea. This is their belief. You can read this in the Dictionary of Symbolisms, 2nd edition, by J.E. Surleau. That's translated from Spanish from Jack Sage. But anyhow, the idea behind golden hair is that it's related to the sun. So obviously, if you have a religion based in sun worship, and they consider golden hair to be like the golden sun's rays of the sun, obviously they're going to take gold hair, blonde hair, and elevate it before everything else. Now you may ask, well, what about the pale skin? I talked about that in another video. Why do Nazis, do white supremacists in general, have this idea of pale skin being a very defining thing in what they consider to be their superiority? let me go here, viewers, up here, because we can see the significance of this in alchemy as well, but this isn't what I'm looking for. Okay, good to know that that comment was not deleted. Sometimes YouTube is very strange. Okay, let me go down here. This whole post is about the Shinto and the sun worship. I'm not really looking for this. I had a viewer come here called Active Advocate. Very interesting woman. Very interesting. Anyhow, let me see. This may take somewhat of a while because I'm trying to look for a particular... Okay, here we go. Racism, theosophy, New Ageism, symbolism, many of those things. So, let me see. What was this idea? Okay, this is their idea of, the sort of European racist idea of symbolism of races. So, it will say the Negro. The image of the Negro always alludes to the baser part of man, to the substrate of the passions. In other words, they're saying us people of the black socialists, that's us Negroes, us Nigers, represent the basis and evil of all passions, alright? The psychological fact empirically proven by psychoanalysis finds its parallels. In other words, they're saying they analyzed some of these black people and said they know that they're the lowest and worst of people. So these people, they have a racist symbolism. They have a racist system of symbolism. So they say it finds its parallel or its origin in a traditional symbolic doctrine, according to which colored people are the children of darkness and the white man is the child of the sun or of the white polar mountain. This is in Dictionary Symbolism, page 227, second edition. This is a PDF file, as far as I know. J.E. Serlo, once again. So anyhow, I think you should basically understand some of the key ideas behind Nazism. Yes, I have a lot of books. Yes, I could talk about a lot of books. But if you go to the Shiloh Hendricks video and maybe the comment section, I will post all types of quotations and different book sources that you can go to and you can gain an understanding of this, viewers. So basically, this is all very interesting. I could talk about it for a very long time, but there come a point where when I say a certain amount, these videos should be enough for you, where you can look at them, you can get the point, you can read something, you can get the point. I don't have to go into every detail about something for you to understand it. Now, the woman who came to my channel was very respectful, very cordial, even sent me a few emails. For those who want to send me emails, you can do it too. Anyhow, this woman asked me what would be a good book to learn about Nazism. And I essentially have to say this. I did respond, but I will say this as a formal response, verbal response. There are many books you can use, and most of what you're going to be studying has to do with really old information, because you will not understand Nazism unless you understand Aryanism. You will not understand standardized white supremacy unless you understand Aryanism. If you do not know about Aryanism, you will not understand the deeply rooted beliefs of the KKK, that is to say the Ku Klux Klan. You will not understand these things. So yes, you're going to have to go through a multitude of books. Luckily, you can find them. That's all I have to say. So some people may want one book or a few books that can just essentially give them a whole background of what Nazism is. Well, there are many. There are many books. And frankly, you don't have to read too much to know what Nazism is. It's Aryanism. It goes all the way back to a bunch of pale-skinned or tawny-skinned, because I have a different standard for pale-skinned. I have a different standard for pale skin. A Japanese person to me can never be pale skin. A Korean person to me can never be pale skin. To me, pale skin is skin capable of sunburn. That's pale skin to me. If your skin does not burn in the sun, does not get sunburn, and is prone to sunburn, if your skin is not susceptible to sunburn, I don't consider you pale skin. I mean, unless you're albino or you're a European. One of the European pale folk, and you can get sunburn, I don't consider you, pale. If you're tawny, if you go out in the sun, you get a golden brown complexion, you're not pale to me. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, I'm a fair-skinned person. No, you're not. Because when you stand out in the sun for long enough, that pale becometh tawny. So to me, you're not tawny if you're getting sunburn. I mean, some people tan, but, a lot of people, to me, pale people get sunburn easily. And even some white people can get a tan, but they still will get sunburn very frequently, and they're very susceptible to it. So to me, that's the standard of the white social status. There have been a few Asian people who've come to the United States who went to the courts and they wanted to be classified as the white social status, but they were told you have to be Caucasian to be white social status. That was the standard. So for me, it's the same way. I won't even call you pale unless you can get sunburn. If you can't get sunburn, I'm not even calling you pale. I call you tawny. If you're brown, I call you dark. To me, tawny is not even dark. Tawny is not black. Tawny is not brown. Okay, tawny is tan. Alright? There's a lot of people in the world that's tawny. Okay? But anyhow, viewers, I talk about complexion. If I have to talk about something, I talk about social status. I don't talk about race. Race means nothing to me, especially considering the fact that I'm a Christian. If you're a true Christian, you're a Niger to me. You're my Niger. Okay? Yeah, you know what I just said. Because that's what Christians were called in the Bible. That's why I'm not ashamed of it at all. I know what the word means. I know what the N-word means. It means, that's the first mention of Christian. The first Christians are being described as Niger. Okay, that's a whole nother video. If you want to see more discussion about that, please go to the video about Shiloh Hendricks. I cannot attempt to talk about every single thing in every video. It's just too much talking. Lord knows if this could have lasted for, an hour, 2 hours? It's probably lasted for maybe upwards of an hour. I still have the music playing. Yeah. I mean, it's like 140 seconds of Roman from Saga Frontier 2. Very good song. Basically, what you need to know about Nazism, I've already talked about, I've already covered. I think I'm going to post some information in the comment section probably. But other than that, you know what you need to know. It came from some racist people, went to India long time ago, and just committed holy hell on some dark-skinned people down there, made them Sudras, made them slaves. The whole Hindu caste system is just a race-based caste system. You may talk to some Hindu and say, our religion is not like this, our religion is not racist. Yes, it is. That's what their whole book and emphasis is. It's just like if I were to say, if I as a Christian, the difference with us Christians is that we don't have a whole system and religion based upon the construction of old Israel and the genocides of the Canaanites. We don't have that. That kingdom was insufficient. That kingdom was inefficient. Old Israel is gone. The only Israel we have is the Israel of God. We can't see it. If he's going to establish his kingdom upon this earth, he has to come back. Our high priest has to come back. We consider Jesus Christ to be our high priest. And our Lord is the Most High God. He's the Father. The Father is God. It's very simple. And Jesus Christ is the only begotten Son of the Father, his direct substance, to which none can claim, none can claim the title as the only begotten Son of God. None else are the only begotten of God. All of us are created. We're created from dust. We're produced of Adam. But Jesus Christ came directly from God. That's the difference. He's begotten. He isn't created. So, we all serve the God the Father. The Bible says that the high priest of the Most High God is Jesus Christ. His high priest forever. All right? So for us, it's very simple. We can understand these things. We don't have any nation that we need to say, well, our people warred and fought and slew and they've killed and took land and property and they're the old Israelites. No, there is no Israel except the one that the British government and the United States government support. which, are essentially false states. Viewers, it's not something true Christians support. We don't support that. We don't have some type of religion where it's about what's on this world. It's what's in your heart, and the Lord is in your heart, and the Lord is with you, and you don't need to be afraid. You fear the one who can destroy your body and soul, not people who can take your land or anything like that. People want to talk about the old glorious days of the past. Oh, the great Israelites of the past. Where are they now? Their kingdom is no more. The Greeks took it, then the Romans took it. It's no more. It's gone. Okay. They had their Pharisees. They had their Sadducees. I mean, sure. You have plenty of people calling themselves Jewish today, but the kingdom is gone. The temple's gone. I mean, where the temple was, there's a mosque there now. The Saracens have taken it. The Saracens took it. It's gone. It's all gone. So what we have as Christians is something entirely spiritual. And I hope to teach in this way. These words and what I talk about, I talk differently than some people. There are people, truth be told, I cannot really even stomach hearing them. I'm a bit different. I talk about symbolism. I talk about lesser known information that you may not have heard. This is what I talk about. And I talk in a way I think that many people, frankly, you won't find it anywhere else. So basically, this whole Nazism, Aryanism thing is a very simple thing. It's an idea that the Aryan is superior to the Dasu. That's where it came from. This stuff is thousands of years old. Some people say, well, racism will come to an end one day. No, not really. I mean, we as Christians know who we stand with, what we stand with. We're peacemakers. We're not warriors. The Bible says your weapons are not, one of the apostles said, one of the gospels said, your weapons are not carnal. That is to say, your weapons are not physical. Your weapons are spiritual. Your weapons are spiritual. They're not, if they're not carnal, they're spiritual. They're things you can't touch, they're things you can't feel. Jesus told you not to pick up the sword, but at the same time he told you to what? He told you to, sell your cloak and buy a sword. Oftentimes the person puts their cloak on when they want to sort of travel or sort of take an exit. I think something about how you have your script and you have your sword. They represent symbols. Jesus is not telling you to arm yourself with a gun or a sword and go out there and do things with it. No, he's saying you're going to fight in a different way. You're going to be armed in a different way. You're going to be armed in a spiritual way. Okay? How can you have one apostle telling you not to buy a sword? Or rather, you have one apostle telling you weapons are not carnal. And I believe that was Paul, as far as I know. And you have Jesus Christ telling you should sell your cloak and buy a sword, even though he's telling you, no, you're supposed to have the words of Scripture, the knowledge of the law of God in your heart. You're supposed to have the truth. You're supposed to have, you're supposed to be armed with wisdom. The wisdom of God. And the truth of God. It's symbols. These are symbols. This isn't you go out and buy like some of these Christians that live around me over here in in Virginia, the South, where you have these Christians in the South, many of which are of the white social status who love their guns. I'm not talking about everyone, but I can rarely find any Christian who's pacifistic. Everyone cares about themselves, their families. Everyone, this is the worldly idea. You don't love your enemy. You're not peaceful. If someone takes something away from you, you'll take up the sword and take it back. You'll commit bodily harm upon them, willing to fight for everything you have. And the only thing that some Christians care about themselves, their family, how they're doing, what they have. They're satisfied with some land, and that's it. But are they loving? Are they peaceful? You know, some people are prepared. Some people are preparing themselves for the end of the world. Some people really think they're going to be prepared. Some people really think they're going to be prepared for some great cataclysm. All any true Christian can do is put their faith in the Lord. Some people are stocking up on guns, and they're saying, I'm a Christian, I'm stocking up on guns, because if someone tries to take my food, they are saying that they will use force, deadly force, to defend what they have. It's just a way of the Christian. It's just what Jesus would do. Isn't that an old, famous statement? The reason that statement is so famous is because that statement is true. Is that what Jesus would do? Is that what Jesus taught us to do? Be a bunch of people who are afraid about what we're going to lose in the world and how we're going to live without our conveniences. Even if it's just something as simple as land, property, food, money, weapons. Even if it's those things, if it's not even technology. These understandings, they go back a long way. The church that was the very first was a church where you could wake up, the Roman government could kidnap you, and you could be executed for not denouncing your religion. So, and they followed the ways of Jesus Christ. So, are we going to be the pacifistic, the peaceful, the peacemakers of Christ, or are we going to be the people who say, let's live like the Aryan. Let's live like the Nazi. Let's take what we want, take up the sword, fight, and destroy. Be the robber to steal, kill, and destroy as we see fit. That's not the way of the Christian. For those of my, members of the black social status that I've talked about this a lot. Maybe you get the point, maybe you don't. But this message is for everyone, but some of you of the white social status, who may be very proud about nation, patriotism, all of these things. And you have reason to be, because people of the white social status, for whatever reason, have been chosen by God to essentially conquer and dominate and be essentially the dominators of nations. I simply have this to say. Are you, who may consider yourself Christian, do you have faith in the nation of God, or do you have faith in the world? And the same is true for all of us. We all should ask that question, in my opinion. Anyhow, viewers, I think I've sort of talked enough about this. I think you get the point. I think this is if you took the words to heart, you kind of have an understanding of Nazism now. You know what it means. You know what the stuff is about. You know what Nazism is all about. You know what Aryanism is all about. You know that this idea of an Aryan white social status, an Aryan pale folk, was already being talked about in the Ku Klux Klan. This predative Nazism, this predative, the KKK, even going all the way back to India, all the way back to Persia. All right? You now know. No one can, hey, I could talk about different books and different people who've said such and such, but I think I've covered what I need to cover. So now, I hope this information is going to be beneficial to you viewers. May you be blessed, and farewell.